Hey kiddos, we're starting chapter 5, and it is titled Saturday Morning. I made coffee and bacon for my mom before she woke up. She could barely walk or talk until she had her coffee. And as far as the bacon, that was for me. We collected all of the eggs that day to take to the farmer's market. Thank you for locking the chicken coop last night, she said before we got there. Have to protect them from wild animals. Oh, I nearly choked on a laugh. I couldn't imagine the fox as a wild animal. This is our table, my mom said after we got into the park at the farmer's market. She pointed to one in the middle of dozens of others. Some of the other tables were covered with fruits and vegetables. One had a massage chair next to it with a sign that said it cost $5 for 5 minutes. My first thought was, this is where all the health nuts shop. People were everywhere, wearing jeans and overalls, walking from table to table and talking to each other like they were having the best time of their lives. That part was as crowded as the theme parks in Orlando. Someone blasted country music from a speaker overhead. I could smell hamburgers being grilled from a booth further down the park. This place was awesome. But put those right there, my mom said. She was pointing to the middle of our table. I knew she was talking about the eggs we had hauled there. Our arms were full of cartons that were cut in half. Good morning, y'all, said an old guy wearing a straw hat and staring at the eggs. He had a strong country accent. Glad y'all could join us. My name is Jim Bob. My mom wiped her hands on her pants. Hi, Jim Bob. We're happy to be here. My name is Julie, and this is my son, Jonah. Call me Joe, I told him right away. He gave me a weird look, shook his head and laughed and pointed to the eggs. How much? It's $6 for a half dozen eggs, my mom said proudly. Mr. Bob whistled. That's too rich for my blood. I can get a whole dozen at the grocery store for half that price. My mom crossed her arms. You're right, Jim Bob. But the chickens that laid the eggs you get at the grocery store were raised in an overcrowded ranch. They were stressed out all the time. They may have ingested pesticides and ate each other's poop. Mr. Bob scrunched his face in disgust. I did too. Now, my chickens were raised on a small farm by my grandma. My mother continued. She had hand-fed them every day and talked to them like they were her own children. She put a hand on my back. Those chickens were loved. They're happy. Happy chickens make better tasting eggs. Jim Bob walked away with 2 dozen eggs. That was amazing, Mom, I told her with nothing but respect. I hoped I could be like her one day. You've got to teach me how you do that. She took a deep breath and laughed. Don't get used to it. They really are overpriced. She leaned across the table. Your great-grandma never came here to make money. She just wanted to interact with people. I didn't know a lot about my great-grandma, but she seemed pretty cool. I couldn't help but wonder how she survived all those years by selling eggs. She never had a job, and my great-grandfather passed away long before I was born. How did she do it? I asked my mom. How did she do what? How did she live without any money? I wondered aloud. She left this world without a penny to her name. My mom shrugged her shoulders. I am sure she had government assistance, and your great-grandfather Ray made sure she was taken care of before he passed away. An elderly couple stepped up by our table and smiled. What do we have here? The woman asked. Her hair was gray in front and the rest of it was brown. The man with her was bald with a long gray mustache and bushy gray eyebrows. Don't be silly, the old man told the woman. I'd know these eggs anywhere. He stared at me and squinted an eye. These are Rita's eggs. What are you doing with them? I had no idea who Rita was or why this guy thought the eggs were hers. He was a lunatic, and I didn't want to deal with it. He scared me. Mom? I said, looking up at her and swallowing hard. My mom laughed. My name is Julie, and this is my son Jonah, she said to the couple. She patted me on the back. Rita was my grandma. Call me Joe, I whispered. Oh, dear child, the old woman said in a comforting voice. I'm so happy to meet you. Your grandma was a wonderful person. She stared at the table for a minute like it was lost in memories. My name is Martha Hunter, she pointed to the man. This is my husband, Jonathan. My mom stepped around the table and shook the couple's hands. Did you know her well? She asked Mrs. Hunter. Mr. Hunter cleared his throat. Are you kidding me? He laughed. The two of them never stopped talking. He looked at me and winked. I had to get a new bottle of aspirin every week. Don't listen to him, his wife said. He's old and bitter. She shook her head and grabbed my mom's hands. I miss her dearly. We must get together and talk sometime. My mom smiled. Thank you. Mr. Hunter grabbed his wife's hand and pulled on it. Let's keep moving, Martha. The sun is hotter than a bonfire right now. He wiped his forehead. Let's let these young people work on their tans. I half waved at Mr. Hunter as they walked away. He was scary at first, but overall a really cool guy. My mom patted her pant legs. That meant her cell phone was vibrating. She answered the call and held up a finger to me, signaling she needed a minute. Her conversation went like this. Huh? Yeah? Uh-huh. Okay. She put a palm over the receiver and looked at me. It's Uncle Mike. Something about a job. She took her palm away from the receiver and spoke into it again. Yeah, I'm still here. Just a minute. I loved listening to these kinds of conversations where I could only hear one person not. It was like trying to put a puzzle together and all the pieces were the wrong sizes. This is going to take a few minutes, my mom said to me. I need to step away. Can you handle the table? I looked around at all the peoples at the farmer market. They had to be hundreds of them. None of them were coming to our table. Yeah, I think I'll be okay. She stepped through the crowd to the other side of the park where there were empty benches. I hoped it was good news for my mom. She loved to work and be around people. Hello, Orlando, some girl said to me. I looked across the table and saw my only friend at school. I thought her name was Melissa. Yeah, that was it. She was always the one with the big dimples. She gave me a wide grin. And that's the end of our chapter, kiddos. I'll see you next time.